right, the plans are already being exposed.
Their Indiana Fever roster, because they had so many injuries, they really did a great job of staying engaged with their season. I can really only imagine for a player like Caitlin, you know, you come off your college season, epic, you go straight to your WNBA season, you know, you finish a first teamer, you have this long off season where you probably can't wait to get back on the court.
We already know how Team USA was planning to build this thing up around Paige Beckers being the point guard, a blasphemous idea.
Only to have like a couple of injuries, you know, sideliner at the ins and the outs, and then eventually being completely out. That is a challenge for a player.
Caitlin Clark officially arrives in North Carolina for Team USA camp. More importantly, we got Sue Bird talking about.
It's just a great opportunity to get their first feel, to get their first taste. But none have had a ton of USA basketball experience.
That hesitation right there is not someone gathering their thoughts. That is someone carefully picking words to avoid saying what everyone already knows. Sue Bird was asked directly about Caitlin Clark's performance coming back from injury, and instead of breaking down her play, she shifted the focus to staying engaged from the sidelines. That kind of pivot always raises eyebrows. That moment matters because of what is really going on at Team USA camp right now. Caitlin Clark just showed up in North Carolina for what is supposed to be the early build-up to her first major international run. On paper, this should be a spotlight moment. In reality, the structure around her has people quietly questioning the direction of the whole setup. Sue Bird, who is overseeing everything as the general manager, shared details that only added to the side-eye this situation was already getting. The message was clear. The veterans are expected to set the tone, not just the coaches, but the experienced players.
It's just a great opportunity to get their first feel, to get their first taste. And the other beautiful part about USA basketball, this is when the veterans really come alive, right? This is when they can be a huge part of setting that tone, not just the coaches. But those vets, I mean, they've been there, they know what it's like. And with the way that they act, maybe with the way that they can be vocal, they're gonna...
The ones who have been around, who know the system, who are supposed to show the younger group how to move, how to lead, and how to carry themselves in this environment. Now let's slow down and look at who those veterans actually are in this camp. Paige Buchers is there. Paige, who has not played a single WNBA game yet, is reportedly being lined up as a point guard option for Team USA. That is not rumor talk. That is what has been circulating heading into camp. And suddenly, the conversation becomes about veterans teaching young players and setting culture. Here's where it gets awkward. Caitlin Clark just wrapped up her rookie season as a first-team All-WNBA selection. She led the league in assists at 8 per game. She set a single-season assist record with 337 total. She ran an offense that turned the Indiana Fever from a lottery team into a playoff contender. Now she walks into a Team USA environment where the messaging centers on veterans teaching youth, while Paige Buchers is being framed as a floor general. The math on that does not sit right. The entire thing feels built to tone her down instead of letting her fully cook, and that is where this situation starts getting uncomfortable fast. This gets even more interesting once Sue Bird explains how Stephanie White landed on this coaching staff.
What went into how you selected Kara's assistants?
Yeah, Kara Lawson, the head coach of Duke, they're terrible, by the way. How did you come to the conclusion of getting the assistants in Stephanie White?
Her explanation sounds clean on the surface, but the details underneath raise more questions than answers. Stephanie White is listed as a court coach for this camp, not a full assistant yet, just present for this December training window.
I think it's Nate, it's Natalie Nakase, and Stephanie White.
Yeah, so they're technically court coaches. I'm getting used to all the lingo also. And it's really, you know, the assistants don't get picked or like officially chosen until much closer to the World Cup.
Oh, so they just are they just here for camp? I'm hoping Stephanie White is only here for camp. I hope she's not going to be around for the real thing. Keep talking, Sue. Keep talking.
So there's a lot of time, a lot of buildup. Some of it is, you know, if you look at past coaching staffs, there's been a mix of WNBA and college. Obviously, this camp is in December. You're not going to get college coaches. That's like likely not going to happen.
According to Sue Bird, the goal was to blend WNBA and college coaches. The problem was timing. Since this camp happens in December, College coaches were unavailable because of the season, so they leaned into what she described as a newer wave of WNBA coaches. The issue is that Stephanie White is not new at all. She coached the Indiana Fever as a head coach back in 2015 and 2016, spent years as an assistant with the Connecticut Sun, and just returned to Indiana as head coach this past season. That Connecticut Sun connection is part of the UConn pipeline, and that is where people start shifting in their seats. Stephanie White just coached Caitlin Clark for one season with the Fever. That season ended with Caitlin dealing with multiple injuries, including a knee issue that kept her sidelined for weeks. By the end of the year, questions were already floating around about how her workload was handled by the Fever's staff. Despite having the league's most dangerous playmaker, the offense often looked out of sync. Now, less than 2 months after that season wrapped, Stephanie White is suddenly part of Team USA, in a position where she can influence how Caitlin Clark is used again in a new system.
So luckily we're able to tap into what is this newer crop with Nate and Natalie of WNBA coaches. Of course, Steph's been in the WNBA for a while, but none have had a ton of USA basketball experience. So it's wonderful to get them in. We had a coaches meeting today, and just kind of watching everybody come together and learn. You got to learn the FIBA rules. You got to learn, what it's about, but also being able to showcase themselves as assistants, obviously.
That overlap is hard to ignore. Listen closely to how Sue Bird frames Caitlin's injury situation. The focus stays on how tough it was mentally to sit out, and how impressive it was that she stayed locked in with the team. That part is fair, but what is missing is just as loud. There is no discussion of how the injuries happened. No mention of the heavy minutes she logged under Stephanie White. No breakdown of how her recovery timeline was managed. Caitlin gets praised for pushing through it mentally, while the coaching context around those injuries quietly gets pushed to the side. The Indiana Fever ran Caitlin Clark hard last season, giving her roughly 35 minutes per game. That was the second highest workload in the league for a rookie, and it came right after a college season where she played 39 games for Iowa. Add it up, and that is more than 80 high-level games in one calendar year, non-stop. Her body finally gave out in September, and now the same coach who oversaw that usage is helping shape her role for international play. That alone should make people pause. But here is where the concern really sharpens. Sue Bird made it clear that these court coach roles are not locked in. The official assistant coaching spots will not be finalized until much closer to the World Cup. That means what is happening right now in Durham is more than just a training camp. Stephanie White is effectively in tryout mode. This is an audition. She is there to show she deserves a permanent seat on this staff. And the way a coach proves value in a setting like this is simple. Show results, show control, show that you can plug players into a system and make it work fast. That means becoming essential to the head coach's vision. Kara Lawson is running the show. She played at Tennessee, not UConn, so she sits outside that specific pipeline. Still, she needs court coaches she can trust. She needs people who will carry out her system without friction. If Stephanie White wants one of those official assistant jobs, she has to stand out right now. So the real question becomes uncomfortable. Does proving value mean unleashing Caitlin Clark's full skill set? Or does it mean fitting her into a structure that benefits players Stephanie White already has deep ties to? Those relationships matter. Stephanie White played at Purdue, but she spent the last decade deeply connected to the UConn coaching ecosystem. That background does not disappear overnight. When those ties exist, they influence decisions, rotations, and roles. And when Caitlin Clark's minutes, health, and usage are already part of the conversation, every choice made at this camp carries extra weight. Stephanie White spent 5 full years as an assistant under Curt Miller in Connecticut. That is 5 years of recruiting trips, coaching clinics, USA basketball events, and nonstop networking tied directly to the UConn program. 5 years of building trust with players moving through that system, learning how they play, how they think, and how they get positioned for the next level. Now, one of those players, Paige Buchers, is at this same camp and is reportedly being developed as a point guard option for international competition. This is where Sue Bird's answer about Juju Watkins suddenly matters, even though she did not finish the thought. The question was simple. Why invite Juju to camp when she is still recovering and cannot fully participate in drills? That is a fair question, And the reasoning behind it says a lot. The real answer is exposure. USA Basketball wants certain young players around the program early. They want them to see how things run, understand the culture, and feel connected to international play before they are fully ready. From a development standpoint, that logic tracks, but it also pulls back the curtain on how roster building actually works. This is not just about current performance. It is about future relationships. It is about getting players into the system early, before they have proven anything at the professional level. When you look at who gets those early invites, who gets access to these camps, and who gets developmental priority, a pattern starts to form. Paige Bueckers has not played a single WNBA game, yet she is in camp. Juju Watkins is still in college and recovering, yet she is in camp. Meanwhile, players who just completed strong WNBA seasons and showed they can perform against professionals are sitting at home, watching this from the outside, and wondering how these decisions are being made. Now circle back to the start of this whole situation. Caitlin Clark arrives in North Carolina. Cameras follow her. The energy is high. This should be a moment celebrating one of the most electric young players in the league stepping into the international picture. Instead, the focus shifts almost immediately. The talk turns to coaching structures, veteran leadership, and how Paige Bueckers fits into the point guard rotation. The skepticism is not coming from nowhere. More people are picking up on the same thing. This setup feels off. The UConn pipeline, as many are calling it, appears to be woven through every layer of this camp. Stephanie White staying close to Caitlin Clark does not feel like simple guidance to some observers. To them, it feels like monitoring, positioning, and control, all happening in plain sight. When you step back and look at everything laid out, this stops being about one awkward answer, one coaching hire, or one training camp decision. This is about how power moves quietly shape the future, long before the public ever sees the results. Caitlin Clark did not walk into this moment as a project or a mystery. She arrived as a proven force, someone who already changed the balance of a league in a single season. Yet the environment around her feels less like a launch pad and more like a pressure test. The language coming from the top keeps circling the same themes: culture, experience, veteran leadership, development. None of those ideas are wrong on their own, but when they are repeated while production gets brushed aside, people start asking why. The numbers are already there. The impact is already documented. Still, the conversation keeps shifting away from maximizing what Caitlin does best and toward fitting her into something that existed before she ever arrived. That is where the bigger picture comes into focus. USA Basketball is not just assembling teams for today. It is laying tracks for years down the road. Camps like this are about access, familiarity, and early trust. Players who are brought in young, even when they cannot fully participate, are being folded into a long-term vision. Those relationships matter later when decisions get tight and spots get scarce. Meanwhile, players who have already proven themselves at the professional level are left on the outside looking in. That contrast is what fans are reacting to. It is not jealousy. It is not bias. It is confusion about priorities. When production does not guarantee opportunity, the process deserves scrutiny. Caitlin Clark's presence has made that scrutiny unavoidable. Every move around her is magnified because she represents a shift in the game. She brings eyes, attention, and expectations that cannot be managed quietly. Trying to guide that kind of talent without fully unleashing it creates tension, and that tension is what people are feeling right now. This is why the story refuses to settle. It touches coaching influence, institutional pipelines, and how early relationships can steer outcomes before fans ever realize it is happening. None of this requires conspiracy to be real. It only requires systems that reward familiarity over performance and comfort over disruption. And disruption is exactly what Caitlin Clark brings. The next phase will tell the truth. Who gets empowered? Who gets adjusted? Who is allowed to run free? And who is asked to fit a mold? Those answers will not come from press conferences. They will show up in rotations, responsibilities, and trust when the stakes rise. That is why paying attention now matters. This is not about tearing anything down. It is about understanding how the game behind the game is played. If you want sharp breakdowns, real context, and coverage that does not dodge uncomfortable angles, Courtside Leaks is built for moments like this. This is where patterns get tracked, Decisions get examined, and the noise gets filtered out. Stay connected. Follow Courtside leaks. Because the next moves will not just define a roster. They will reveal exactly how power is exercised when the lights are brightest. We've got every angle covered, every leak, every backstage twist, every moment they won't show you. Hit like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this video. Stay locked in with Courtside Leaks, your home for the truth behind the WNBA headlines.